Welcome everyone, JJ coming back to you here. Another one of my videos where I talk about one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite albums. This video, it happens to be both of those things. One of my favorite bands who released one of my favorite albums. I'm also lucky to be able to call these guys friends and shared the stage with them many times. And always been a big fan of everything these guys presented and some great songs and some great performances and things like that. So from the title, you can tell that this band is the band is Cauldron, and the album I'd like to talk about from them. I hope that this album, In Ruin, is widely available now. They had some issues where I think this album was pulled from being available on streaming services, likely a rights issue or something like that. But I really hope that anyone watching this video is able to easily find this album on some kind of streaming, or better yet, support the band and buy an album or a CD, because this is an amazing piece of what a lot of people would call the new wave of traditional heavy metal. And I'll give you a bit of history if you're unfamiliar with that. Obviously, if you like heavy metal, you probably have heard of the new wave of British heavy metal. So Judas Priest, Saxon, a handful of other bands, Iron Maiden, Def Leppard. Controversial, but also included in that list. These bands all kind of broke into the music scene in the 80s, created what they created, obviously. And then somewhere in the mid to late 2000s, there was kind of a resurgence of that style of music. And, it was bands that we all liked, all those bands I mentioned previously, we're all big fans of those. And, metal had kind of changed, new metal had evolved, and, metalcore and these things had come around. And a lot of those 80s bands kind of got left by the wayside again. And there was a resurgence of bands that were bringing back that traditional heavy metal sound. And, in parts of Europe, there was bands like Enforcer, a handful of others. So many of the names escape me now, but, a handful of bands that were playing that style of music. And I was in a band called Ashley Blade, and around that time we were kind of lumped into the Canadian scene of that. But in my opinion, the kind of the best and the brightest of the whole thing was Cauldron. And playing in Ashley Blade, we would sometimes open for these guys or just share gigs. We socially would run into each other, and so I got to know the guys in Cauldron and got pretty familiar with their music. When we'd be on tour, Cauldron's first record, Chained to the Night, or the first album I had from them was Chained to the Night, and that was on heavy rotation a lot of times for our van rides between gigs and things like that. So got familiar with the band, and I love their music and stuff. And the early version of Cauldron was much more kind of like speed metal and just fast and kind of abrasive, very brash, and lyrics all kind of rooted in the typical themes of heavy metal, like driving fast and drinking beer, like just stuff like that. And it's all good fun. But there was a pivot point at some time with Cauldron where things kind of took a more serious turn. And some of the lyrics still kind of reflected some of the like the things that we all like, and horror movies, and the tropes of heavy metal and things like that. But the songwriting took a turn from being just kind of just all fast and all thrash and double bass, and it turned more into kind of like a hard rock, kind of like album oriented rock. Like it was the songs took a shift. And in my opinion, there's not too many bands that would as they get further along into their career, where things they kind of get better. Most people would argue that the first few releases from a band are the best, and then they kind of trail off from there. But Cauldron, in my opinion, kind of did the opposite, and I much prefer the later material that they released versus the earlier material. And so this album in particular, I should mention there was another album that they released called Burning Fortune. And the guys were kind enough to invite me for a day or two on the recording of that album to help set up drums with the original drummer Chris Steve. I came in and just kind of helped a little bit. I didn't do much, but helped a little bit anyways, enough to get an album credit. So, but I kind of got to experience, and I saw how they were recording. And these guys were real kind of like, true to the idea of, doing things the old way. So that album was recorded to tape on an analog console. Like they did it old school. And so I was very impressed by how they did that, and the amount of work these guys put into stuff, and just that whole process was amazing. So that album gets released. There's another album after that, Tomorrow's Lost, and so at that time they were kind of in limbo, let's say. Chris Steve, who was the drummer, had departed, and they were kind of in between drummers. And so they finally recruited who is still the current drummer. His name is Miles. And great musician overall, fantastic guy. And I don't know if his inclusion into the band swayed the songwriting. I haven't talked to the guys to kind of see how that process worked. But there is a definite sea change that happens with Miles' intro into the band. And it's probably just a happy circumstance that, the songs are changing and he's in there. And things are becoming more simplistic and not in a bad way. They're just becoming kind of like, more like Bon Jovi-ish, Bryan Adams-ish. Like they're just kind of going into this direction of rock versus, speed metal, thrash metal, and really diversifying their sound, in my opinion. And so yeah, this record, this is the first album they did with Miles in the band, and this is my favorite album from them. And this is there's a reason I'll get to in a second, why I think it's really cool. And but just the songs that are on this, and just kind of the whole thing that the band was going through, and my favorite song from Cauldron. I've done a cover of this song. If you check out my channel, look back through the archives. I've done quite a few covers from Cauldron, but my favorite song on this album is a song called "Come Not Here," and that song, it blows my mind that a song like that can be out and just not become a huge rock radio staple or something like that. Timing, just circumstance. I don't know what it is. It's just, sometimes lightning strikes and luck and circumstance and things take off or whatever. And it's a song like that should be heard by more people. And I hope that, in some small way, anybody who's viewing my videos might give the song a chance to. It's such a fantastic song. Hold Your Fire, Burning at Both Ends. A really cool song called Santa Mira, which is on side 2. And if you know horror movies, you might know the reference of Santa Mira and where Santa Mira is. And if you do, kudos to you. You can hang out and chat with that junk with the rest of us. So, but yeah, amazing album. And there's a cool... obviously the liner notes and all that stuff, you've got your breakdown, all that kind of things, but if you take it's kind of hard to see. I don't want to zoom in too far to the camera, but you can see Miles playing some drums there, and if you look closely enough, like maybe say in that picture right there, there's a white Tama Grand Star drum set that might look familiar. So a kind of a big boon for me, let's call it, is that they asked to use this exact drum set to record the album with. Miles had a drum set at the time, and I don't remember what the brand of it was, but we were kind of sort of sharing a rehearsal space, and he liked the sound of this one or whatever. It kind of fit the aesthetic of the band, and so yeah, he asked if he'd be able to use it for the recording. And so on this particular album is the only recorded instance of these drums, as far as I know. I've never used them on any recordings that I've done besides the YouTube covers. So it's very cool. It's an honor for me to have have that little kind of participation in the album, and always glad to help the guys out whenever they needed it. And another cool tidbit is there's a video Cauldron has, and it's a awesome kind of reprise of the VHS days when it was a copy of a copy of a copy, and I share a kind of a sentiment towards those things with these guys, where we kind of I like that aesthetic. It reminds me of like being young and making a copy of something from somebody and it was never good quality, and brings back all those the rose-colored memories or whatever. So there is an awesome live video. I believe it's on YouTube. If I can find a link, I'll put it under this video. Live at Lee's Palace, which is a pretty infamous venue in Toronto, and once again, this drum set makes an appearance at that show. And so yeah, I think that I don't even know if I've used these drums live, to tell you the truth. So that might be the only other live appearance for this drum set as well. But it's a very cool music video, and a very cool concert video, I should say. And yeah, a huge stage riser and smoke and, heavy metal, right? So, but yeah, if you're a fan at all of, any of the traditional heavy metal bands, I mean, these guys are, they wear that stuff on their sleeve, and there's no shame in any of that kind of stuff. For any of us, we all love it, and the influences kind of run deep for all of us. And there's a lot of records that Cauldron's put out. This is the one I would suggest. It's always been my favorite, but saying that, all the records are very good. And they're kind of, I guess, in more or less a limbo state right now. Saying hiatus might not be right, but the band is kind of like in a, they're not exactly broken up, and they're not exactly playing all the time and releasing new material. But yeah, it's very, very cool that I've got to see these guys progress through the years, gotten to know all the guys in the band and become friends with them. And yeah, it was always a great, great pleasure anytime we got to play shows with these guys. And so yeah, if you're a fan of traditional heavy metal, any of the metal bands, check these guys out and give this album a listen, and see how much better the drums sound on this recording than they do in mine. It's they sound pretty good. So yeah, this is the one about Cauldron. In Ruin. Cheers.